What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Sunday, June 13th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 2-game slate today, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns playing the Denver Nuggets. Chris Paul has averaged 37.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 53, 49, and 47 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 30, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 43 fantasy points here tonight. Even on FanDuel, that's 5.1 times value. He's $8,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,100 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 222 points scored in this game, so I like Chris Paul here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, another point guard that I like, he's really been underperforming even with James Harden out, but he does have 50 plus fantasy point upside, so you got to consider him. Take a look at Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Kyrie Irving has averaged 45.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He scored 39, 39, and 48 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 44, 33, and 44 minutes. He's projected at 46 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's $9,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $100 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 228.5 points scored in this game, so I like Kyrie Irving here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, another couple point guards that I like Jrue Holiday. He's projected at 37 fantasy points here tonight. He's also been underperforming, only scoring 22, 21, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he's playing a monster minutes, played 45 minutes last game, still only 22 fantasy points in 45 minutes, but I think he's due for a big game here. He's $7,400 FanDuel salary, and he's $200 less on DraftKings. So if you want to save some salary with a guy that's got 40 plus fantasy point upside, take a look at Jrue Holiday here versus the Brooklyn Nets. And if you want to save even more salary at the point guard position, take a look at Monte Morris from the Denver Nuggets playing the Phoenix Suns. Now this is a high risk, high reward play, tournament play only. He's averaging 19.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 32, 14, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 22, and 23 minutes. So he's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.8 times value. He's $5,800 FanDuel salary, but he's $500 less on DraftKings. So I prefer that DraftKings price. If I'm gonna play Monte Morris, probably gonna be on DraftKings. So I like Monte Morris on DraftKings here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns playing the Denver Nuggets. Devin Booker has averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 40, 34, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 33, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 39.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 7,900 FanDuel salary, and he's 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Devin Booker here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, another shooting guard that I like. He just started playing minutes a couple of games ago, and he had a good game last game. Scored 25 fantasy points in 27 minutes. Take a look at Will Barton from the Denver Nuggets playing the Phoenix Suns. Will Barton was averaging 24.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. So if Will Barton is going to play 27 minutes or more, I think he's got a great chance to hit value here. He's projected at 25 fantasy points. That's just about 5 times value. He's 5,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 less on DraftKings. He has 30 plus fantasy point upside if he can get the minutes. So I like Will Barton here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, this next play is DraftKings only. Take a look at Bruce Brown from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. So he's got a great matchup. Bruce Brown has averaged 20.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 22 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He scored 33, 26, and 24 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 25, and 21 minutes. He's projected at 26.5 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.7 times value. He's 5,600 FanDuel salary, but he's 900 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I'm not going to play him on FanDuel, but I think he makes an excellent value play on DraftKings. So I like Bruce Brown on DraftKings here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Kevin Durant has averaged 46.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. With James Harden out, he's the guy that seems to be benefiting most. He scored 62, 49, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 32, and 40 minutes. He's projected at 54 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 10,800 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. So I like Kevin Durant here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, another small forward that I like, but this is a FanDuel play only. Take a look at Joe Harris from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Now this is a high risk, high reward play, tournament play only, but he averaged 23 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate, but he's only scored 9, 16, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he's been playing a lot of minutes. He played 36, 30, and 34 minutes, and with James Harden out, you would expect there's going to be more opportunity for him to score fantasy points. He's projected at 22.5 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's 5 times value because he's only 4,500 FanDuel salary, but he's 1,000 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. So I like Joe Harris on FanDuel here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. The other small forwards you can consider: Michael Porter Jr., Chris Middleton, and Mikal Bridges. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, moving on to the power forward position. You got a stud pick here. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Giannis Antetokounmpo has averaged 53.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 48, 37, and 54 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 30, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 55.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 10,700 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. I'm just waiting for Giannis to bust out with a 60 or 70 plus fantasy point performance. It could come here tonight, so I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Another power forward that I like is Blake Griffin from the Brooklyn Nets playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Blake Griffin has averaged 23.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. But he scored 27, 24, and 42 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 25, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 27 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 5,200 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 less on DraftKings. So I like Blake Griffin here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets playing the Phoenix Suns. Nikola Jokic has averaged 54.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He scored 72, 50, and 48 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 29, and 36 minutes. He's projected at 57.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 11,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 900 less on DraftKings. So I like Nikola Jokic here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, another couple of point guards that I like. I think DeAndre Ayton is worth a look. He's 7,000 FanDuel salary. He's 500 less on DraftKings. Projected at 33.1 fantasy points here tonight. He scored 31, 24, and 34 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 25, and 36 minutes. He was averaging 33.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game. So he's projected at 33.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 7,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. So I think what it comes down to here is if you need to save some salary on FanDuel at the center position, I would prefer playing DeAndre Ayton for 7,000 over Brook Lopez for 6,100. But on DraftKings, I would prefer Brook Lopez, who's much cheaper. So I do like DeAndre Ayton on FanDuel if you want to save some salary at the center position. Now, on DraftKings, take a look at Brook Lopez from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Brooklyn Nets. Brook Lopez has averaged 24.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 37, 22, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 25, and 27 minutes. So he's projected at 27.7 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.5 times value because he's $6,100 FanDuel salary, but he's $1,700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I like Brook Lopez on DraftKings here versus the Brooklyn Nets. So just once again, Nikola Jokic, he's the stud at center, but if you want to pay down and save some salary at the center position, I would go with DeAndre Ayton on FanDuel and Brook Lopez on DraftKings. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.